Alright, so here are the 4 boards that I've made for the Reaper project. 2 are for me to keep, and then 2 are to send off to Canada to get assembled into the final 3D printed guns. And I figured while I had the 4 boards still with me, I would demonstrate how they could all work together and create 2 separate pairs of devices without interfering. So they're all loaded with the same firmware. They're not serialized in any way. They're all both physically and programmatically identical. So now I'm going to turn on one of the boards. We'll choose this one. So you can see here that the status laser has started to blink. This indicates that this board is now in pairing mode. It is listening on channel 0 of the NRF24 radio module for another board to pair up with. So when we turn on a second board, we'll choose this one. Both of the status lasers turn solid. Now this indicates that they are now paired. So what has happened is, because this board was turned on first, and there wasn't another board present at the time of being turned on, it has assumed the role of master. And this board, because there was a board present when it was turned on, has thus assumed the role of slave in the pairing configuration. So what the master just did in that instant was it chose another channel besides channel 0 as its private channel, a channel that is going to be unique to this pairing configuration for the duration of that these are paired. Let's say 52. I don't know for sure, but it's possible that it chose that. It then, when it noticed that a slave was present, instructed that slave to change channels to 52. Then, the slave turned channels to 52, the master turns channels to 52, and verified that communication was present on that channel. And thus, the pairing sequence is ended. Channel 0 is now open for another pair of boards to communicate on. So now, these guns are basically ready to go. We can start pulling the trigger using these switches right here. So this one fires, and these can fire totally independently. There's no order in which you need to pull the triggers, so I can sit here and fire this, and this, or this, and this. And I can fire this one again if I so choose. And so, because each board, according to the game, or each gun, I should say, has 4 shots in the 2 barrels of the gun, pulling the trigger now will not do anything, because this gun is now out of ammo. There's one more shot in the chamber for this one, though, and before I pull the trigger, I'll explain what's about to happen next. When I pull the trigger and fire the last shot, these guns will now automatically reload together, so you will hear both of the speakers play the reload sound effect, and then play a random voice line that I've loaded on the flash chip of each of these boards at the same time. So I'll go ahead and fire this last shot, and we'll see what happens. As you can see, they both reloaded at the exact same time, so the sound was in sync, and played the master chose a sound effect from its library, a voice line from its sound library, that it wanted the slave to play in unison. So that's how both speakers were able to play the exact same thing. The same sound file is loaded on both boards, but the master instructed the slave to play it in unison. So what I wanted to show next was that these 2 boards are not inherently a pair, regardless of, master and slave. I have 4 boards here, and all of them are able to pair with each other. So we made this one the master, and this one the slave, and so now what I can do is shut these off, and now instead we'll make this one the master by turning it on first. This one's ready to pair, and let's choose, let's go for this one up here. So we'll turn this on. And now they paired, see? Because both lasers are solid. And then we can start firing these off. So, just like that. and these are now playing sound effects and working as a pair. So just because, you know, they're all identical, any two boards can be a pair. We can even turn these ones on next. This one and this one. And these are now a pair. And they won't interfere because they've chosen separate channels. So, for instance, we can fire these off. And then fire these off. This one and this one. And they're totally independent. They treat each other as two separate systems.